I was born and raised in Vietnam, so I was surrounded by many stories about family and nature, something like fishing in the rivers. So when I read the scenes Kaya sneaking off to hunt wallabies by the billabong, I actually feel like it's quite familiar to me because it sounds like those days back in the years when I usually see my dad head out to catch fish. Then 3 years ago, I came to Australia for my bachelor degree. I started learning about indigenous cultures like the connection to country and also storytelling. The keywords that helped me connect were billabong, wallabies, didgeridoo, spare, uncle, cousin, auntie, as well as campfire and also gatherings. Okay, so as what you previously explained in the tutorial about situated knowledge, I believe that my situated knowledge came from two different places. The first one is my Vietnamese origin. I know what it's like to be part of a close family. Because when his sister wanna go with him, I actually laugh because when I was a little girl, I was just as stubborn, and I always want to follow my older brother everywhere he goes. The next one is I think living in Australia gave me a brief understanding of Indigenous life. So I know what the word wallabies and also didgeridoo means. I think the author got an Indigenous Australian origin, and I don't really match that because I'm Vietnamese by birth. But I get a family part because in my country we stick together for big gatherings as well. And in the story, Kay has pride in hunting to be a hero. So it's like me wanting to win the first prize in the competition in order to make my parents proud. I don't really know clapsticks from my own culture, but I know about drums and trumpets as festivals, so I can imagine the firefly scenes. So if I'm teaching year 3, I believe that they are full of energy, and at the start, I will try to link their lives to chaos. So I might ask them, what do you think you would do in order to make your parents proud, to get their prior knowledge? And then I think not every kids will get the word didgeridoo straight away from the start, especially if they're from the city or from other countries. So I will bring a photos or like a pictures of that to show in the classroom and also a toy spare. Moreover, I think the word mesmerizing might get them confused. So I will show them my facial expression because I think it's year 3, so they need action, not just talking. So today I'm going to talk about Wicked, a musical movie which is one of my absolute favorite. That movie imagines a world where things aren't what they seem. A misunderstood hero is actually a good person, and the other one who seems to be perfect is in fact a flawed social climber. It describes a place full of magic but also comes with a lot of power games and also prejudice, where being different can make you become isolated and judged by the society, just like Elphaba. She is the green wig in the story. She has green skin, which is different from other character in the movie. However, the movie also shows that positive friendship and standing for what is right can change things. This movie also imagines the world as having various cultural understandings that different group of characters bring into the story and make sense of the world. This is similar to the idea of the author of the book Literacy in Australia, where children come to school bringing with them their cultural capital and personal experiences, which means that each of them might have different views on the same story. I believe that the authors are slightly influenced by the Americans' culture, so they understand how society loves to label people. The way people split into us and them, like how Alphaba's green skin makes her a them, which reflect the real world that differentiate people by their race, class, and also anything that marks you as a them. And also in the movie, I think there is a little bit of power dynamic comes into play as well, when the smart animals in the movie being silenced by the powerful group of witches that represents a sharp jab at silencing marginalized groups in the unfair society. As a future junior primary teacher, I think this story is a good resource as I can get students to act out scenes to promote friendship and also to explore the fairness in the society. Through the video, I can see that the school has a very strong play-based approach which evokes students' curiosity. Um, the teacher acknowledged in the video that the students can make mistakes sometimes in the language learning process, no matter if it's verbal or written, which is a very good thing because I think the students that time they will recognize that their response is valued. And I reckon that the teaching method in the video that was shown is psycholinguistic theory and whole language approach. There's a scenes when Leah asks, what were we experimenting and experiencing at the flower table? Then the students came up with a response that connect with their sensory experiences, which improve the children's language development process through real-world context. At the start of the video, the teacher asked one of the students, "What can you see down there, Pete?" Which prompts him to use his cognitive skills to think and then provide a response. Leah, the teacher, also asks students to write down their thought and observation as a sentence. I believe that this relates to cognitive theory and skills, and it requires cognitive process for students to remember their observation and also to organize their thought and also for them to apply their writing skills. In their response, one of the students wrote Mia, M-I-A, which shows her literacy skills including letter recognition and also letter formation. I think this linked to psycholinguistic theory as well, as it shows an authentic and meaningful experiences that then makes writing a natural part of students' language experience. Moreover, there's also transactional theory in this video as well, because after that question, I remember the teacher asked the students if that is her best friend's name, which the teacher obviously trying to connect the writing activity to the child's personal life, and then in the response the child say that yeah, I know Mia because she says it all the time. I think the phonic knowledge required for this poem are knowledge of digraphs, blends, interesting sound, and also contractions. In terms of digraphs, based on his phonic terminology, I think children really need to know about consonant digraphs and vowel digraphs in order for them to decode words in the poem. There are consonant digraphs such as WH in when in the first sentence, and there are also TH digraph in the and think, which is a bit tricky because I think student needs to distinguish between the voiced digraph and the unvoiced one, which was mentioned in his phonics terminology table 9. Vowel digraph also comes up in the poem too, like E, intrigue, and clever. Moreover, I think I can see that the poem also contains many different blends that children need to decode as well. For example, initial consonant blends like CL in clever, which combines the K and L sounds, and also final consonant blends like ND in end, which combines N and D sound. And I think personally, I think this is very common in English. Another thing that I think children should know about, which was mentioned in page 88, that Susan Hugh mentioned about syllable, which is quite fascinating to me because, to be honest, I haven't thought of that when I read the poem and before I read the phonic terminology file. So, regarding syllables, most words in the poem are one syllable, but some are two syllables, like begun and clever. The other thing that I also want to talk about in the video is interesting sounds. I believe we discussed about interesting sound in our week 4 tutorial, and it was also mentioned in page 81 of the file, which is onset and rhymes. For example, like 4 and more, 3 and me, 5 and alive, clever and ever. And one last thing that I reckon students should know is constructions. They need to understand that this single unit represents two words. For example, like I am and I'm. They need to know that the A is replaced by the apostrophe. Hello, my new friend. Let me introduce myself to you. I am a puffy cloud floating everywhere around the state. I'm part of a wild family up here in the sky. My siblings and I love chasing each other over the hills in the Barossa. I also have many great uncles. Some of them are old and they move so slow. They always drop drain to the ground and they are really loud. Let me tell you an interesting fact about myself. I am very famous. Every day, I see so many people stare up at me from the ground, but they don't know that I'm watching them back. Today is the day that daylight savings end here in Adelaide. I feel very happy because an extra hour gives me more time to play. Hooray! I need to go find my cousins now. I am now drifting over a park. Yay! I can hear my cousins chatting about what they've seen. Down there, I can see a boy looking up and pointing at me. I'm wondering what he thinks I look like right now. What do you think? Do you think I look like a giant bubble or a dinosaur? Oh, he says I look like a flying elephant. Me? A flying elephant? That's the new one. Yesterday, someone said I look like a fluffy bunny. I love how everyone sees different things when they look at me. It's like I'm made of magic and imagination. My cousins are calling me now. The breeze is getting stronger. Whee! I can see the oceans in the distance and everyone is waking up slowly as the sun rises. But before I go, I just want to say something to you. Next time when you're outside, maybe when you're lying on the grass or walking to your school, can you please look up on the sky carefully? You might see me there, playing hide and seek, or just floating around looking for my cousins again. If you see a cloud that looks like a bubble, a dinosaur, or maybe even a flying elephant, please wave and say hello. It might be me, your new puffy friend. Goodbye for now. As I reflect on the photo story making process using a digital tool, I realized that technology has been a big influence on humans' life and specifically it deeply affects the way we engage with literacy events. The author of the book Literacy in Australia mentioned in chapter 10 that she believes the way we communicate in our everyday life are increasingly mediated by technology. And when I sat down to create my digital photo story, I can really feel that it's real. It wasn't just about typing words, but it was about navigating screen, deciding whether to embed a video or a hyperlink, and also thinking about how those choices can change the story. I was amazed by the process, and to be honest, I didn't have a chance to learn any of these digital story making techniques when I was younger in Vietnam. Back then, literacy means paper and pencils to me, just like that. It's not like screen and software and other things like that. Flint said that most children growing up in Western countries are exposed to digital devices from a very young age, which then offers them an opportunity to participate in literacy practices that previously not available to them. that made me realize that not all children growing up having the same idea of literacy, that it has to be neat handwriting, write on a straight lines, and have to have perfect spelling like what I used to have. In the tutorial, we also talk about history of writing tools, which I think is really helpful. I think each step had changed how people express themselves, and the idea of literacy also changed. From pencils in 1868 to typewriters, and then crayons, and later the ballpoint pen and word processors. I think it was a long journey. And by the time humans got to laptops and the first iPhone in 2007, I think that its literacy wasn't just about writing on its own, but it's rather about creating with sound and images and also movement. And also, working on my photo story shows me that literacy can also be very creative and sometimes can be messy as well, because I have to pick the word that I can match the photo, as well as the sound effects that can complement the plot of my story. So I have to keep choosing and then delete, and then like I have to choose it again. So I now believe digital tools right now should be implemented into classrooms so that children can explore these new forms of literacy early on, because it helps in preparing them for a future where communication is so much more than just writing words on paper.